To explain why Donald Trump just pardoned dozens of individuals, the fake electors, individuals involved with his unlawful schemes to overthrow the 2020 election, many of whom are prosecuted for state-related crimes and for other, for things that even the pardon doesn't apply to. Like, why was he doing this? I agree with the analysis by Kyle Cheney and Josh Gerstein, and they say Trump's pardon for his allies that just took place, who tried to subvert the 2020 election, is a permission slip to do it again. Critics warn. The language in the pardon underscores that Trump's clemency is not limited to people named in the document as well. And Kyle Cheney writes how Trump's pardon of his alleged 2020 co-conspirators was less about shielding them from past crimes, his adversaries say, than about signaling to others that he has their back if he needs them again in 2026 or 2028. He's preparing for the midterms, to rig and steal the midterms, okay? He tried to do it with his unlawful gerrymandering schemes. We saw what he did in Texas, but then Democratic states stood up, and it backfired in his face. And in many ways, it seems that after California stood up, after Democrats were able to negotiate a pretty good map in Ohio, it seems that Virginia now will be launching its own attempt to do a referendum like we had in California, to do a mid-decade redistricting there. There was a court ruling that just took place in Utah where a judge said that the Republicans unlawfully gerrymandered there. Democrats picked up a seat. Also, the rigging of the Texas map was based on 2024 population data, demographic support of Trump, where Latinos supported Donald Trump and other groups supported Trump. But after Tuesday, those groups overwhelmingly flipped back to Democrats. And so if the trend that we saw in Latino areas, whether it was in New Jersey or Ohio or New Jersey, Virginia, Georgia, in other locations, and specifically Jersey was a great way to analyze the big Latino shift back to Democrats. If you see that in Texas, then 2 or 3 of those seats that Trump tried to rig can now actually vote for Democrats there. So when you add all of that up, that plan to rig the midterms that way seemed to backfire. So now I think he's going through his playbook, and now he wants to go back to these people who tried to help him rig the 2020 election and say, all right, I got your back for the future. That's what I think this was about. So just take a look at how these pardons were even worded to people like Giuliani, Eastman, Meadows, Powell, Chesborough, Bob, Ward, Jenna Ellis, the crew. The team is all back together. The band is back. This is what it says. This proclamation ends a grave national injustice perpetrated upon the American people following the 2020 presidential election and continues the process of national reconciliation. Just pause there. It uses these words like national reconciliation. Just think about the language. It's the words that people use like after a civil war and the authoritarians lose. How dystopian that he's using it here in this context. And it says, acting pursuant to the grant of authority in Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, Trump hereby grants a full, complete, and unconditional pardon to all United States citizens for conduct relating to the advice, creation, activities, participation, or advocacy in the 2020 presidential election, as well as for any conduct relating to their efforts to expose voting fraud and vulnerabilities in the 2020 presidential election. So to me, that language is very broad. It's intentional. I want to bring in Harry Litman of the Talking Feds YouTube channel, the Talking Feds podcast, and the Talking Feds Substack. So I think it's offensive enough that he's pardoning these co-conspirators this way. A lot of these pardons won't apply on the state level convictions of individuals or state prosecutions to the extent they're still taking place. But Harry, I think there was a broader goal here, which is to send a message in 2026 and 2028. I know you wrote about this. You're very passionate about this, as we all should be. What do you make of it, Harry?
It is vile, Ben. Look, we're used to a sort of a cascade of bad shit happening in any given week, but this to me stands out as, one of the worst things he has ever done. In general, his use and abuse of pardons are, if crimes or impeachable offenses were actually going concern, they would be at the top. I don't disagree with everything you're saying. Look, guys, if I call on you, I may call on you to do me a favor. And don't worry, I'll have your back and pardon you on the other side. That surely is a big part of it. But to me, the guy has been obsessive in this cold-blooded Orwellian scheme to just basically whitewash history and say this never happened. It was 11 on the 6th, and it was all peaceful, and it's all been trumped up by Democrats. We're talking about the crime, probably the most serious crime ever perpetrated by a president against the republic that we all saw on TV. Nevertheless, that there are huge chunks we don't know about. That's purposeful. Jack Smith brought a case against him and made all these 6 marquee figures who are pardoned yesterday, unindicted co-conspirators. In a normal course of events, if he had not returned to the presidency, those guys would all have their day, but he wanted first to go after Trump quickly. But we're talking about a thorough investigation finding these guys are just criminals and co-conspirators in the most grave kind of crime against the nation that you can imagine. And to me, that what stands out as his purpose is to just prevent the American people from understanding and having a full investigation of what happened. You can't go into Meadows now. You can't go into all these other figures because they've been pardoned. So an investigation, won't ensue. And there could be forevermore a kind of confusion or debate in the historical right. Well, it was 11, right? They were no, it wasn't. And he's really tried to set not just the law, but history upside down. And you think about other grave instances where there was a national reckoning, the Kennedy assassination, 9/11, Mueller, although that went off the tracks. And that's, I think, what he is trying to prevent and advance his own self-serving and completely fictitious account of this, and at least make it a sort of he said, she said event in the minds of Americans. And what happens now? All the knowledge we have from those big events happened because there are investigations and subpoenas and people subject to perjury. Now you're talking about what? Like historians asking for papers from the Library of Congress and positing and arguing. This is a grave disservice, as I see it, against, the Republic itself, you and me. We have a friggin' right to know what happened. That involves things that Mark Meadows, these are the people who know where the bodies are buried, and they never will be made to talk, it seems to me, based on these pardons. I think it's really, really vile, way up there with the most Orwellian, autocratic, and just anti-American thing that he's done.
Yeah. And I would just tell people that anything we saw take place in 2020, 2021, it's going to be way worse this time. Anybody who thinks this guy's actually leaving or doing a peaceful transition, he's just not getting there yet. He wants to do his other authoritarian things first. The moment it starts getting closer to 2028, he will start talking about president for life, and he'll go there. And there's nothing. I understand that he said, it's too gimmicky. I'm not. He lies about everything. Let me be very
about everything. That's
be very clear.
Axiom number one.
This guy is not leaving peacefully. I'm 100%. And what we saw here is his recognition on, as he gets to that conclusion, that what he tried to do to rig the midterms is not working. So now I think he was saying he's still not sure what his plan yet is for the midterms right now. You know, like with Prop 50 and others, he tried this idea of intimidating people with election watchers. That didn't really work. And he's experimenting. You know, what these ICE agents, the chemical warfare, what you're seeing take place, to me, that's a lot part of his election plan as well. He wants to overwhelm and target the blue states and try to keep these blue states in basically de facto insurrection act, martial law is the word I was looking for, a de facto state of martial law without having to declare martial law and then interrupt the elections there. That's an authoritarian tactic. To me, that's what a lot about what these ICE raids are about. And where he's struggling there is that these ICE agents are detested and these border patrol are so hated. And it's not unique to like Democrats. People hate these ICE agents disturbing their lives in these cities. And so they're coming in, but like the way you see that force being used in like a Russia or in like a, say, Georgia, like the country, or some of these other kind of satellite nations of Russia right now. He's Trump struggling to get to do what you see there, and he's trying, but there's this tension taking place with our institutions at the state level and governors pushing back, and the first kind of line of federal judges pushing back. So that's what I think this is about, Harry. This is about midterms and elections. I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, and I hear you. I'm focused on history very much as well. I see it, right? I mean, what stronger guarantee can he give to anyone that like, I'll take care of it and don't worry. But look, you don't have to hate Trump to find this odious. Look and remember, we all saw it. Remember Giuliani with the paint running down his throat and saying all kinds of crap about, what was going on in Georgia. Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, we have evidence the Dominion machines actually change votes. John Eastman, here's the great plan to make electors lie. These are people who were absolutely, without any kind of scruples, ready to cheat the country out of the duly elected president. You don't have to. You can be a Republican. You can even be a Trump admirer in some ways and still see how revolting this is in this broader project of somehow, if there's any justice at all and the American experiment abides, he'll go down as the worst, most damaging, most immoral, mendacious president in our history. But that's what he is also, in addition to what you say, working on and trying to somehow completely whitewash history. Man, oh man, that shouldn't happen in a democracy.
Everybody, make sure you subscribe to the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds podcast, and Talking Feds Substack. Thanks, Harry. That's where Harry has his YouTube channel. It's where I get my legal news from. So thanks, Harry.
Hey, thanks, Ben.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers here.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.